He sticks out like a sore thumb. We'll find him.
The hell you will. He's got a 2-day head start on you, which is more than he needs. Brody's got friends in every town and village from here to the Sudan. He speaks a dozen languages, knows every local custom. He'll blend in, disappear. You'll never see him again. With any luck, he's got the Grail already.
Does anyone here speak English? Or even ancient Greek? Water, no, thank you, sir. The fish make loving it. Oh, my goodness me, thank you so much. No, I don't thank you. No, I really don't want... Thank you very much. No, thank you, madam. I'm a vegetarian. Does anyone understand a word I'm saying? Mr. Brody!
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
Nice. I think I caught you like mid-chew there. I know Thursdays are busy for Andrew, so you're probably like eating dinner right now also while you're trying to do the show.
No, just a milk dud.
Oh, okay. Just milk. Okay.
But I underestimated the milk dud. Because you see the box of milk duds and you think, it's just this tiny little chocolate caramel thing. No. This thing was that huge. And I thought, I'll get it before it's time to start talking. And I didn't.
It's okay. We're fine. No one would have ever known had I not called you out on it. So I guess that we're fine. Anyway, this is, Cheapseat Reviews. This is episode 444. And tonight we are finally finishing, I shouldn't say finally, but we are finishing the Indiana Jones trilogy that we started so long ago with Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. Or and The Last Crusade?
And The Last Crusade.
And The Last Crusade. I am your host, Shawn Allred, and joining me tonight is Andrew. Now, this is a joke that's only going to work for those people that knew Andrew in college. And I have to give you a backstory to the joke, but I think there's a good payoff. In college, Andrew Jimison, AJ, somebody thought it would be clever to call him Juice, as in AJ, as in apple juice, right? And you're making a face, Andrew. You do remember this, right?
Oh, I remember it well, and I've hated it ever since.
You've always hated it. You always hated it. And there was one guy who was your big brother in the fraternity, who's also named Andrew, who tried to make it stick. And of course, I think that actually made it worse because it was him that was trying to make it stick. So with that backstory having been said, joining me tonight is Andrew. Don't call me Juice Jimison.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. No, that's good. I love every bit of this movie, but we're going to talk about it in a minute. But that line, there's a lot of one-liners in this movie that stick out and you can take away from it. And I've actually said to people before, "Don't call me Junior," or things like that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of good ones from this movie. And returning as always, I guess, for the Indiana Jones movies, though we didn't force him to do Crystal Skull, but I don't think we knew you when we did Crystal Skull, is Erik. He chose wisely.
Oh, good. Good.
On the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast.
At least I'm not aging rapidly in front of your eyes. Right now. So
I'm going to get this out of the way because I just mentioned the he chose wisely part. I've mentioned it on the podcast before. It's a funny story. At least I think it's funny because it involves me. When I was a kid watching this movie, and I watched this movie a bunch as a kid, and I watched this with my son, and he really enjoyed it. I thought for the longest time that when Donovan drinks the cup and drops it, and then he looks over and he says he chose poorly, I thought that was the name of the cup. That the cup was called poorly. Like he had chosen poorly, and that other cups had different names. Like that cup over there is called bad, and that cup is unwise. And that like they all had a bad name except for wisely. Like when you know what I'm saying, like when you're 10, 11, 12, like don't quite understand the grammar of the thing. So
I thought you were kind of going to go along the way of like he named them like kitty cups, like it's poorly, and here's drinky, and here's slurpy,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm thinking. What? Oh, so now you're like, oh, wisely and everything. But yeah, I think poorly's hilarious, but I was thinking of more of like a 12-year-old going, oh, that must be poorly. So where's drinky? And
That's where I was too.
yeah,
no, that's
Yeah.
funny. That's actually funnier than what I did. But no, as a kid, I was just like, he chose poorly, and that one's badly, and that one is dumbly. Like there are all these different adverbs. So anyway, welcome back to the show, Eric. We're glad to have you here.
thanks. I've been having a lot of fun revisiting these movies. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And again, this has been a fun trilogy to revisit as we kind of lead up. The idea was to lead up into the new movie Dial of Destiny, which is out now. It's getting kind of mixed reviews. Some people like it, some people don't. But you're not going to be able to please everyone with
haters gonna hate
when you're continuing a story that is kind of beloved as this story, as this character is. So, but it started early. You hear it?
Is it the cuckoo clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2 minutes early. Gosh dang it. So while this clock does its thing, Andrew, go ahead and tell us what this movie is.
All right. In 1938, after his father goes missing while pursuing the Holy Grail, Indiana Jones finds himself up against the Nazis again to stop them from obtaining its powers.
And that was just long
Nazis.
enough. Yeah, it was just long enough to get the clock out of there. So I think I'm on record saying this is my favorite of the trilogy. And we all know that Erik, this is Erik's, the first one, Raiders, is his favorite. And Andrew, have we asked you which one is your favorite? Is it this one also, or?
Well, that might happen to be my 5-word review.
Oh, well then go ahead and say what your 5-word review is.
Favorite of the Indy franchise.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's my first one. My second one it's actually a 6-word review, and that is, what circus needs that many snakes?
Very true.
Like, do they hand them out to people?
I don't know. They're party favors. They come with your seat.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a crap ton of snakes. Why would you ever need that many?
Yeah, that's true.
Like I could see, a couple terrariums with 5 or 6 snakes, but
and maybe you have in your act, you have a snake guy who like has a big, like a big on wrapped around him, and they go, "Oh, come into my house of wonders and see my snakes." But like, it's going to be
like a bowl of, it's a bowl of snake spaghetti. That's what that is.
There's how did we miss there's snakes on this mother effing train joke? There's
oh yeah,
snakes on a train. No, so it also is my favorite one too. Anything else you want to expand on that 5-word, or you just want to leave it there and we'll just go?
Well, no, I just want to say I think I said this with the last one we did, but I used to watch these with my dad all the time, and usually they were on TV, some network, cable network, so it was always cut with commercials and things. So it was good to see this straight through, because I don't think I've seen it straight through in quite a while. But this is by far my favorite, and I think I've seen this one the most. And I remember watching this as a kid thinking, man, I kind of want to be an archaeologist, just because I want to, get into all sorts of shenanigans and make out with hot German ladies. But then I realized that, the one line that he says in his classroom of, it's mostly reading and research. That's really what it is. I don't know of any archaeologist that has actually lived the Indiana Jones life. Maybe there's one, but I don't know.
Well, and that's what makes the line in the fourth movie funny when he's riding on the back of Shia LaBeouf's motorcycle and they crash into the library and and there's this kid there. He's like, I got a question. He goes, you need to get out of the library and get into the field. It's like, oh, well, that's not what you said, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago. Yeah, I'm with you though. So it's actually opposite. Well, not opposite, but like, so I've actually never seen this like cut with the commercials, and it's funny because there are movies that are like that with me. Like, remember when we did Ghostbusters for the podcast?
Mhm.
I had never seen. It wasn't until the podcast viewing that I had seen the commercialed version of Ghostbusters. So I had
Mhm.
I never knew that there was a ghost blowjob scene. Like I didn't know that was a thing. So, because we own these on VHS, we had these we had the whole set on VHS. So I've probably seen this movie easily 30 times from front to back, maybe more. I don't know, but it would be high 20s, low 30s. I would suspect, and it's my favorite simply because it's the funniest, and it's just. There's a lot of fun jokes, and yeah, there's some one-liners, and it's I think a little bit more. I know a lot of people, so we'll talk about this here in just a second. How do we feel about the intro, besides the fact that it's significantly too many snakes? Are we okay with giving all of Indy's characteristics in one 5-minute fight scene?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was delightful.
it was.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're okay with it?
It's a film series that I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. Ghosts and voodoo and 800-year-old men, and so sure, let's have Indiana Jones have every single Indiana Jones ism in one great action scene.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And it's a perfect way to explain it. I mean, again, because I mean, we're not in the time frame where you could now have a 40-episode Indiana Jones series and really go deep into his childhood, although eventually they did. But I mean, with all streaming and everything that they do nowadays, right? If this movie came out and you had that trilogy, then you'd have another TV show and this and that. But they thought this was it. This was the end. So I thought it was kind of a clever way of introducing all those fun things, especially like the scar. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
I mean, this is Harrison Ford got in a car accident for crying out loud, but yeah, that's a scar. Let's address that, and not in any other movie that Harrison Ford has ever been in, right? So now the scar is like the Indy lore. It's nothing else. So I like that. I like the hat. I love it's great. It's great.
I have always contended also that I liked that bit too. Because like the very beginning of the movie, like his buddy, like they're Eagle Scouts, right? And he's like, the guy's freaking out, and then he goes, "It's just a snake. Like it's no big deal." And he picks up the snake and throws it away. It's not until he's buried in snakes that he develops his fear of snakes.
Right.
Like they're coming out of his sleeve at kind of Deus Ex Machina moment in the fight scene, but But I was okay. I've always been okay with it. In fact, I almost wish more movies did this. It's like.
I think in movies nowadays they force it, right?
Yeah.
They're forcing the backstory, much like Star Wars, Solo, right? The whole Han Solo last name thing. Like, did we really need that? We didn't, and it was stupid and silly. At least they did it in a smart, interesting, and fun way in Last Crusade, and it was just like I said, it was delightful to see all of that stuff, happen within like a 20-minute sequence, right? He became literally Indiana Jones for there. Like you said, he went from a Boy Scout to Indiana Jones in a matter of 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think if in Solo he had gotten sliced with a blaster bolt or something,
he got it in the fight with Chewie. No,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend this podcast defending Solo because I think it's a fine film. I don't think. It's great.
So do I.
It's
but
fine.
It just seems those things seem forced, right? You go see a prequel and it's just we have to have every single thing, and sometimes you just want to leave a mystery. But this one, I think it was so unexpected too, right? We had I don't think I remember seeing it for the first time, not thinking we were going to get this, backstory, because I honestly thought that was Indiana Jones. As the looters, and I'm like, that's not Harrison Ford. What the hell is happening here? And it was so confusing until he finally said, hey, Indy, right? Indiana. I'm like, oh my God, that's him as a kid. This is neat. Let's go. But I was confused for the whole thing for about 5 or 6 minutes because I had no idea where it was going to go. And that's what was great about that sequence.
Yeah. I don't know if that was Richard Young's voice as Fedora or if that was Harrison Ford's voice, but they sound so much alike too.
They do. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he doesn't have very many lines, but I would bet that was probably his own voice. But
yeah,
no, I've always contended it's okay to have the intro and like that, or to have that thing. So I'm for. I was just curious of your opinions because I know there are some people that are like, oh, I hate how they did that. It's awful. It's lame. It's like, well, who cares? You know, it's fine. We and really. Honestly, we don't need it. We also don't need the fight with the guy with the cross. Like, we don't really need any of that. It doesn't serve really the plot other than we're just reestablishing, like it makes you feel like, well, he loses this thing and this is why he became an archaeologist, was to find this thing again, to get these pieces of history in museums.
And it's to kind of show that he's doing all these quests for the right reason, which is to get it into museums. And when we get to the quest for the Holy Grail, it's not for the Holy Grail. It's not for him. It's for, preserving the history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, because if you see him in the first two films, it's more of, well, he literally says it in Temple of Doom, it's fortune and glory, right? And so, but now we get a sense of he doesn't do it to just loot. He's bringing it back to the museum, and that's a theme that goes on through this whole film. And he wants to make sure that's preserved and everybody can see it and appreciate it. So I think that's pretty important to address, especially at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and I think that without that, you could make an argument that he is not really a good guy.
Right.
If he's out for, robbing places and for glory for himself, then you could make the argument that he's not really the good guy.
You can. I wouldn't say he's not a good guy, but he's certainly not a. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe he's a good guy. He's the protagonist, but he might not be. I mean, like Han Solo is kind of an anti-hero, right? He's a scoundrel. He's a smuggler. He's all of these.
Do we see Indiana Jones the same way?
I mean, a little bit in Temple of Doom. We don't really get it in any other movie but even in Temple, like the movie starts off with like he's willing to stab the girl to do the thing, right? But by the end of the movie, he's saving children. Like we talked about that last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really has that change of heart. And in Last Crusade, he's willing to blow up the Ark to prevent the Nazis from getting the power. So again, he's trying to do the right thing. And then this one is mostly just about saving his dad.
Yeah.
It's not, most of the movie is find my dad, and then it turns into almost like a dad road trip movie for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then he goes back into, I have to save my dad. And I love Sean Connery in this movie.
Yeah.
He is just the best. Like, old Sean Connery is my favorite. I wasn't really into the Bond movies, the early Bond movies. So like Sean Connery in this, Sean Connery in Hunt for Red October, like those are my Sean Connerys.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Erik, what's your 5-word review?
I have 2. First one is a perfect end to the trilogy. And the second one is actually 6 words. And it's called Graduating from Action University with Style. And I think that's something Spielberg said. He said, this is where I graduate from Action University, and moves on to other things. Although he still did action adventure films. It's kind of, after he got a taste of Color Purple and Empire of the Sun, I think he was kind of gearing up to that momentous occasion in '93 when he finally did Schindler's List and then matured as a filmmaker. So, but yeah, I think he was done. I think he was completely done with this series in '89. And unfortunately forced into doing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I don't even think he wanted to do this one. And it was the father-son story that pulled him in. He wasn't interested in any of the ridiculousness that came beforehand. I mean, if you read how this was originally supposed to go about, it involved haunted houses, pygmies, gorillas. Then it went to the Holy Grail, where Indy would touch the Holy Grail and a stairway to heaven would arrive, and he would ascend the stairway and disappear, and that would be the end of Indiana Jones. So many weird ideas. Like, George Lucas was obsessed with this Monkey King, and he had even Chris Columbus, the director of Goonies and Home Alone and all that sort, write a draft based on what's it say here? It would be a battle with gorillas and pygmies. Like, he was obsessed with gorillas and pygmies, and talking to a spider monkey king, like a human hybrid. It was wackadoodle. But then they finally grounded him. I think it was Menyo Mayhees who got the story credit, started to introduce the Holy Grail, and then it was Jeffrey Boehm who came in, fleshed out the whole script, and then there was the I don't know who it was that came up with the idea of Sean Connery, no, sorry, of father and son, but that's what interested Spielberg in this. It wasn't so much the Holy Grail as the MacGuffin. It was the father-son story, which is really the key to this film, and that's why I think it works, or else it just would have been a retread of Raiders of the Lost Ark, a real safe version of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So the father-son story really saved this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And I also, I mean, yeah, it helps that, you get to, you have Nazis to punch. And so there's that helps too. And the movie does, I think one of the reasons why I like this movie is because it does kind of feel like a Bond movie, because it's a little bit more jet setting. We go from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I guess that's where he is, right? Like, movie starts, he's in the Utah desert. He's in Utah, and then it goes to wherever home is, right? I just assumed it was like,
I thought it was always Chicago, but maybe it's,
was it Chicago? I don't know.
But I can find out. Yeah,
it always
College, which was actually was in Connecticut. There you go.
Connecticut. Yeah, it had a New England feel to me,
Yeah.
but it's hard to tell. It's just trees and some old buildings, and then we go to Venice. And then we go to, like Turkey, or where did we go?
Austria.
We go from there to Austria,
Austria, yeah, and then to Iskandar, and then from there they go. I can't remember where they are. It's the Republic of Haiti, Haiti, Haty.
Yeah.
So, which is nowadays something else. I don't know what it is today. But I just like the fact that we're kind of all over the place, and I think that's really cool. You get the different locations. You got that really cool location that's got the door that's built into the side of the cliffs, which is a real location that they also used in a Transformers movie. Just the funny thing,
Jordan.
Yes, that's
yeah.
The fun thing is that doorway you only go in about 10 feet.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like, it's one room.
Yeah.
But it's this huge gate that they like to turn into this. But it's a really cool location. It really is. But anyway, so my 5-word reviews. It's really funny. Literally, I wrote, my first one was perfect end to a trilogy. So we're on the same page here. It's a good thing I wrote another one. I also wrote 5-minute character backstory intro. So making reference to the beginning. And then I just wrote, the last one I did 3, was great fun, adventure, good jokes.
Yeah.
This movie
And I think
laugh.
I think that's why I like this one the most, because it is a little more lighthearted, especially compared to Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the jokes are kind of all over the place. I mean, like we're having moments where, the dad goes to rescue Marcus in the tank, and the guy says, Dr. Jones is getting away. He goes, I don't think so. He's right here. No, not that Dr. Jones, the other Jones. Like there's a lot of those kind of moments, where we're having some fun with it. And it's also funny watching the dad, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He doesn't want to kill anybody. And then by the end, he's using the tank to blow up a truck full of Nazis, everyone has their moments. So this movie just makes me happy, guys. It just makes me so happy. And even pulling clips for The Thing. Again, this is a movie I've seen so many times, and there's still clips, there's still moments that make me laugh. For example, I'm going to play this clip out of order, but I don't care. So this scene here.
Wouldn't fall into their hands. I came here to save you. Oh, yeah? And who's going to come to save you, Junior? I told you. Don't call me Junior.
So I captured that for two parts. One, because the German says shit, which is funny. Two, I just like the don't call me Junior. But the next part is, look what you did. It just still makes me laugh. Like he's just, I can't believe my son just murdered 3 Germans. Look what you did. I love the way he does things in this movie. Sean Connery's just the brilliant. I love it so much. Okay. What else do we want to talk about? Because I got some clips here. I didn't take a lot of notes just because I've seen this movie so many times, and there's really not a whole lot of trivia about it on IMDb. What you got, Eric? You got your big book of things, right?
Oh my God, yeah. I checked my big book of things, but for as detailed and wonderful as this book is, a lot of the stuff for Last Crusade actually comes from like the making of Last Crusade that was on the DVD or the Blu-ray. So I mean, pretty much everything that I already know, or we already know, is kind of like out there. The only thing was, and we talked about it when we were doing the Temple of Doom review, was that there are Raiders of the Lost Ark leftovers. So some of them were inserted into Temple of Doom, and there were 3 leftovers from Raiders that were inserted into Last Crusade. And that was the Nazi double agent, rats, and Indy almost drowning.
Gotcha.
So the 3 things that that were kind of left over from Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I don't know if there's any other kind of like key bits of trivia. Although, I mean, there's some funny little stories, like, for instance, the conversation between father and son on the Zeppelin. Sean Connery was so hot in his suit that he decided he was going to take his trousers off. And so he did the entire scene without pants. And so Harrison Ford said, fine, I will do the whole scene without pants as well. So they're shot from waist up, sitting there having a drink together, but they're not wearing pants at all. Because I think Sean Connery's suit was actually a wool suit, so it was just blazing hot. He says he just sweats profusely, so they just took off their pants and did that entire sequence with no pants. I also find it fascinating that Connery's only 12 years older than Harrison Ford. And that's what I think they were really worried about, that when they offered it to him, but Connery just kind of jumped at the chance of doing that. And of course, I mean, he's the perfect father. I mean, they wouldn't have done it with anybody else, although there were other people considered. And I couldn't find anywhere where they said that they of who they talked to. But I think Spielberg was adamant of getting James Bond as the dad, because that's where the idea came from. You know, when they were talking on the beach in Hawaii after, counting the receipts from Star Wars, Spielberg wanted to do the James Bond movie, and George Lucas is like, no, I got something better. And so James Bond inspired Indiana Jones. So let's bring James Bond in as Jones's father. But yeah, the chemistry between the two of them was incredible. And Harrison Ford credits Connery with that, because they didn't really, and I remember hearing this during an interview. Someone asked Harrison Ford, said, what kind of stories were you guys talking about? And did you hear many things about James Bond and everything? And he said, no, absolutely not. It was all just focused on the story of the film that we were making. And they had a great time doing it. But they just wanted to make sure that they had this down right and that there was chemistry between the two of them. And that's how they formed their friendship. And they didn't have to worry about the past or anything. They just focused on this film. And Connery had a million ideas, and he brought all that to the table, and Spielberg and Lucas really appreciated that. So yeah, I do like the fact that, again, it's the father and son story, and everything is moved forward or moved along because of that. You have to save Henry Sr. from the tank, and it's not necessarily, Indy going on a or Indy, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, trying to get the Ark. He's trying to save his dad, and then he tries to save him. He has to save him again, and it's a race against time after he gets shot. And by the way, that scared the bejesus out of me when I saw it for the first time. That awesome wide shot of Nazis on one side and Indiana Jones on the other side, and then all of a sudden he shoots them. And I think Ben Burt mentioned that he went out to a parking garage and fired off a gun to get that big boom and that reverberation and that echo. That just, that scared me to death. And I think that's what made that whole last sequence an incredible bookend to the whole series, because it was released against time. And Indy had to do this. He was forced to do that, and he didn't want to get the Grail because of the Grail. He needed to get the Grail to save his dad. So I thought that was wonderful. But as I said, it was a perfect bookend, because Raider starts with going into a temple and finding a thing, and Last Crusade mirrors that, but right at the end of the film, and we all know that they ride off into the sunset, and it's like, this is the most perfect ending to a trilogy ever, and then they ruin it. But yeah, it was the thing about this movie I think that I remember the most is because it was the first Indiana Jones film I saw in the theater. I didn't see Temple of Doom. My parents wouldn't take me. I was too young to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I saw this in an old theater in Hamilton called the Tivoli, and it was the last film that they showed it, and it was just this old grand theater, huge screen, and it was one of those ones that had like the alley or the seats were on either side, and there was a pathway in between, which is kind of odd. And I just remember sitting on the edge right in the middle and just enveloped by this whole story. It was really, really fantastic, and that's what I remember the most about it. And yeah, they shut that place down, which is too bad, because it was just beautiful, beautiful old theater. But and now that I've seen all the films, I finally seen all the films on the big screen, and I saw Temple of Doom a couple of months ago, and that was the first time I saw it on the big screen. So, but yeah, I think also, I think we talked about it with Temple of Doom and Raiders. The cinematography is unbelievable, and you can really contrast Douglas Slocum's cinematography to Janusz Kaminski's cinematography in the fourth, and whoever shot this fifth one, and just how absolutely brilliant and vibrant and colorful the original trilogy is compared to those ones. And especially when you're seeing montages now for this new Dial of Destiny movie, and they start showing scenes from the first four movies and then start intercutting some scenes from the fifth one, they don't even compare at all. Slocum was amazing. And I really do wish he worked with Spielberg for his entire career, because these movies look gorgeous. The widescreen photography, unbelievable. And yeah, that's what I really love about the trilogy. Just looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree.
What were you going to say, Andrew, right before Erik went on his thing?
No, well, I have two things.
Sorry.
That
No,
you're good.
That was great.
Yeah. I have two things that one that I didn't realize. I think I remember it, but I didn't realize when they went to the catacombs to search for the tomb under the library there, that they found petroleum there. I just never, and so I always wondered how they got the torch. When I was younger. Yeah. And then I also wondered how flammable is this, because you're carrying a torch And he goes,
And
so
it's
is the
dripping
petroleum
fire.
Yeah, is the petroleum floating on top of the water? Is that what's happening here? Because they go under the water. Well, he goes under the water, right, and looks around. If that were petroleum, that would, I
It
don't
would
know.
burn like hell. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was one thing I noticed and made me think a little bit. And then the last thing that I've always wondered with this movie is they go to seek, immortality with this uh cup,
Cup,
right?
yeah.
And so is this, as looking at it from a Christian background, is this immortality as in the spiritual immortality, or is this, as the 800-year-old knight, is this real immortality? And does that now make Indiana Jones and Henry Jones immortal? Or I didn't really understand the rules of this.
Yeah. So it's all everything to do with the Great Seal. You pass the Great Seal, and that's the price of immortality is to stay there and be immortal.
Yeah,
The moment you pass the
I-
seal, I mean, you trigger the earthquake, but you
Right.
also lose that. You lose that immortality, whatever. So that's why. I mean, I've heard people say the same thing. It's like, well, now Indy can't die. So, but yeah, he can. Absolutely, he can.
Well, yeah. Well, and I always looked at it as when they took the cup past the seal. That was what, triggered
Yeah,
everything. But
he mentioned, the old man mentions like the what was the line?
Well, he does say, he said, you've chosen wisely,
Yeah.
but the price is that you can't take it past the Great Seal, for that it's its
Right.
limits, and that is the cost of immortality. And that's
Right.
why the knight's still alive. He's been drinking.
okay.
Yeah.
But he can't leave. That's the deal. There is kind of a little goof or a glitch or in that moment where, because Indy pours the entire cup over his dad's wound, and then the next shot, Dad's looking at it and sets the cup down. There's still water in the cup.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Andrew, you talk about like little things you noticed, and the petroleum bit is a pretty, because he does make the line like, I could drop a well down here and retire.
Uh-huh.
The one thing that always kind of annoyed me is Donovan, is that this guy is this rich multimillionaire guy, and he's got this Grail tablet in his living room, and he's the one that kicks this thing off, right? Like the Hitler comes to him to say, hey, millionaire man, we want you to help us find the Grail. And so why? Like, why him? The only reason why you would bring him into the fold, an American, is, right? Is he American? I guess he's American.
Yeah.
I don't think he had an accent. The only reason why you would bring him into the fold is because he is a Grail expert, that he has the means, the resources. So when we get into the room and he's like, I don't know what the cup looks like. I'm not a Grail expert. Like, this entire movie, you've been a Grail expert. Until this moment, you never thought to take 5 minutes to read maybe what the cup would look like? And now I've also always believed that she picked the wrong one on purpose,
Oh yeah.
because she
Yeah.
wanted him to die,
Yes.
because she wanted it for herself.
Correct.
And so I always believe that. But like, it just always seemed annoying. Like the scene with him dying is really cool. I love that scene, how they shot it and all that stuff. And I think it still holds up after 30 years or whatever. But
Yeah, it's a lot of reverse photography as well.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, just going to ruin it for you guys. Just watch the flames next time you see the shot from behind Donovan.
yeah.
His hair is going to, the flames are going backwards, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like seeing the guy in the jeans and the t-shirt in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
You can't unsee that.
yeah, so,
Yeah. So, but it's a great use of the technology at the time, and it was the morph technology that they'd
they'd used it also
established
in
in
Willow.
Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of getting closer to that CGI explosion, or that moment in 91 and then into 93, just the development of special effects. But that's an incredible, it's great cutting too. I mean, it's great editing, it's great special effects. It just works so well.
And
There-
it's still
there is
creepy.
one-
It's creepy. and weird.
Yeah,
Cool.
it
Go ahead.
is. Well, I was going to say there is one special effect in the movie that kind of takes me out of it now, and you could probably guess which one it is. When they drive the tank off the cliff.
Oh wow, yeah, that one sucks too.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
whole
it's-
biplane
Well, that one's
chase
pretty
sucks
rough,
too. And you know what? That bugs me so much because only a year later, Spielberg directs Always, which has some of the most incredible miniature um and model photography and whatever they did for all the close-ups and the flights and everything looks real in Always. Like you have Richard Dreyfuss sitting in the pilot seat and it looks like he's actually flying that plane.
Mhm.
And here you got, I mean, the worst green screen work I have ever seen. It's and people complain about the CGI in Crystal Skull and now in Dial of Destiny. They're like, oh, CGI. Go back to Last Crusade. You're right. That fall down from the cliff is unnecessary. They didn't need it.
No.
It's just a dumb shot. But that whole airplane sequence is really like the Zeppelin taking off. It's really bad, really bad, especially for everything else that they did in that whole entire series. It's just, it's rough.
I watched it on my big high def TV, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the film doesn't quite hide the flaws of an old like my old TV hid some of these flaws, but and it's funny because my son's watching it, and he you know he doesn't care about that stuff, which is cool. You know what the part he got really annoyed with was like, oh my god, how could he shoot the tail of his own plane? Like, how did he not know that was going to happen? And then. And then the other part that really annoyed my son was when the car goes in the tunnel and the fighter pilot goes in after him. And my son goes, what fighter pilot would do that? Like, what did he expect to happen? I'm like, I don't know. It just
yeah, and I think it's just because he came around the corner and he didn't see what was behind there, I guess. I don't know. It's a clumsy scene. It's a very, very clumsy put together sequence, and it almost seems like it's last minute, but it isn't. I mean, the last minute sequence was the whole motorcycles chase. That was done at the last second because when they saw the edit, they're like, there's not enough action. So let's go into I think it was like the Hollywood Hills or wherever it was. Or maybe it was just outside San Francisco. I can't remember. But they just went out there and shot the motorcycle action sequence. And you can tell it's much later too, because Harrison Ford's hair is actually quite longer than it is in the rest of the movie. But yeah, they just made it up on the spot, and it's great.
Yeah.
So
little jousting with the stick thing. It's pretty good.
it's wonderful. It's so well done. And then that's the thing. I mean, when you're kind of under pressure, you might do some of your best work, but I mean, especially for, as I said, when you see some of the other special effects in this film, I mean, the leap from the lion's head, I was on the edge of my seat when I first saw this, because I honestly thought, how is he going to do this? And Indy's going to die. And that was one of the most suspenseful moments where I'm like, he's going to step off, and I honestly have no idea. Usually you can kind of tell like what the give is and their tell, but this one, and then the whole special effect behind that is brilliant because that's actually built with that forced perspective, and it's an actual model. Actually, I have it here. It's really neat in the book. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there's the guy working on it right there.
Yeah.
It's so good. I was shocked. And I think that, it's wonderful. Beautiful. That's a great special effect. But then the rest of it, yikes.
And the funny thing is the movie does cheat us a little bit, because there's when Indy first comes out, we're seeing from the other side of the whatever, right? So this perspective would be different. We would see that the grain is different.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a cheat. And then there's a moment where I can't remember it, but there's a moment where the camera is kind of looking. Oh, it's when he's about to take the first step.
His shadow.
When he's about to take the step. There's nothing there. There is a gap.
Yeah.
My thought was maybe the bridge like almost connects there and then drops down a little bit. So I mean, there's just enough that the camera can kind of cheat a little bit. But you're right. My son did the same thing when he goes, leaps. My son goes, no one can jump that. What's he going to do, Dad? And then when he takes that first step and stops, my son goes, how did he do that? I mean, my 10-year-old was amazed. And then when the camera, shifts off axis a little bit, my son goes, that was so cool. I mean, it was really cool to watch this through the eyes of a 10-year-old again.
Mm-hmm.
Last little note I will mention before I do clips, because we need to get moving on here, is I do like it when they're in the catacombs underneath Venice, and he goes, "Hey, that's the Ark," and she's like, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "I'm pretty sure." And they played a little bit of a theme from Raiders to get that little bit of theme there. I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, time for some clippy clips. I have a few, 8 or so. So here we go. Number 1.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
I always love that. So do you. I mean, it's basically him saying your mama or something, like,
Yeah.
Oh, well, you belong in a museum. Okay. Here's him teaching.
So forget any ideas you got about lost cities, exotic travel, and digging up the world. We do not follow maps to buried treasure, and X never, ever marks the spot.
And then,
Except for when it does.
And then
in the library.
10. X marks the spot.
And then we get the great gag when he takes the stanchion and he's cracking the floor, and you got the librarian who's like stamping books, and he hits that stamp and he goes, that noise. And he looks at the stamp and he does it the second time, and then when he breaks the stuff, he like puts the stamp down like it freaked him out. I love that bit. Like, that's funny. That's not, you're not going to get that kind of, I mean, it's not slapstick, but it's funny. This is also funny because we and you can tell the guy doesn't actually say this phrase. He doesn't actually say Mickey Mouse, but
Right.
they added it in. You have do you know what he originally said?
Yeah, you know what I did have? I forgot what it was. It was some other character that they didn't think they were going to be able to reference, so then they said Mickey Mouse instead.
You have 34 seconds to figure it out. Here you go.
All right.
Look, that gun and caught a sniffle.
Are you expected?
Do not take that tone with me, my good man. Now battle off and tell Baron Brunwald that Lord Clarence MacDonald and his lovely assistant are here to view the tapestries.
Tapestries?
Dear me, the man is dense. This is a castle, isn't it? There are tapestries.
This is a castle, and we have many tapestries. And if you are a Scottish lord, then
I am Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Even in the recording, you can hear that that's a little bit different.
Yeah. So the line was supposed to be, then I am Jesse Owens. So of course he's the guy who defeated the Nazis in the 1936 Olympics.
Right.
And I'm sure I wouldn't have got it. So Mickey Mouse is, but yeah, that's the ADR sucks.
Yeah, the ADR is bad. And I remember watching it with my dad, and my dad said he wouldn't have said that. And I said, why? And he goes, because Mickey Mouse hadn't been invented yet. It's like, oh, okay. 1938.
Is it?
I thought that was,
And would they have seen Mickey Mouse cartoons?
I didn't think Mickey was a thing yet. I thought Mickey is he pre-World War II? Well,
that's a good.
You look that up while I play the next clip.
Yeah.
Fall into their hand. I came.
I already played that one. This one also makes me laugh.
I'm going to tell you something.
Don't get sentimental now, Dad. Save it till we get out of here.
The floor's on fire. See? And the chair.
I love it.
So Mickey Mouse, 1928.
Oh, okay.
Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie.
Okay.
Going back to that clip, do you think Sean Connery was offended by Harrison Ford doing the Scottish accent? do you think that he trained him a little bit?
Probably not.
But I thought that was a great kind of. Oh, I mean, would that like James Bond moment, disguising yourself as someone else and trying to infiltrate? I thought that was kind of funny.
I did think it was funny. One of my favorite moments in the movie.
Tickets, please.
Boss,
No ticket.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I use that phrase anytime I can.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it makes sense, just no ticket. Yeah. And I mentioned this earlier.
He chose poorly.
Yes, he did. Okay.
Is that it?
That's
you don't
it.
Have one more.
Oh, I
Best
don't.
line in the entire film. The
No,
most important moment.
I forgot to capture the. What is it with this junior? That's his name, Henry Jones Jr.
There's a better line before that. That just.
Oh
is,
no, what is it?
Oh, it's when he finally calls him Indiana
Oh, he says Indiana
because he's been calling him Junior the whole damn time.
Mhm.
And the moment he says Indiana, that's when all of a sudden he's like, "Oh yes, sir." Turns around and he says, "Let it go.
Let it go.
Just let it go."
That's a
And
good one.
Dad saves the son, which is that gives me goosebumps. Just like Indy's been saving the day for all 3 movies, and all of a sudden Dad has to save his kid. And the fact that he acknowledges him as Indiana is wonderful. But yeah, then it gets back, 5 minutes later, we're still back to Junior and the gag and the dog. And one other cool thing. I'm not sure if you notice it when you're watching it, but of course we know that Indiana Jones is named after the dog. So if you go back to the beginning of the movie and just after the train chase and where young Indiana Jones runs home, we see the dog.
Yeah.
Well, John Williams plays the Indiana Jones theme on piccolo, doo-doo-doo, just as we see the dog, and Indiana Jones, and young Indy runs by him.
Nice.
I thought, brilliant cameo, absolutely brilliant cameo, and that's not Sean Connery sitting there at the desk. It's an actor called Alex Hyde White, and that's the guy who's playing the arm of Henry Jones Sr. But I've always loved that little doo-doo-doo gag with the dog, but you don't really pick it up until much later, and especially after hearing the joke. And that's true. I mean, Indiana Jones is actually named after a dog.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's the Alaskan Malamute, and that's what's it's lying in the house. So I love it. I love all those little callbacks. And again, they don't feel forced. Yeah, and then of course, I mean, geez, the ride off into the sunset, man, and it's during the whole end credits too. Oh, it's so good.
But it's also a gag too, because Marcus is like, follow me, I know the way. Yeah, and then he almost falls off the horse, and he goes, got lost in his own museum. Yeah, after you,
lead the way, Junior.
Yeah, yes, sir. But I love you are named after the dog. I love it. All right, time for this.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
Time for our game. We're going to try to zip through this as quickly as possible. This is our game that we call Hey, Did You Notice? This is where Andrew is going to ask Eric and I questions of things did we notice in the movie. And though we have seen this movie probably combined 100 times, we will probably still miss all these things. Eric will go first. If he gets it wrong, I'll have a chance to steal and so forth. Andrew, take it away.
All right, Eric, what year did Cortez give the cross to Coronado?
God, I have no idea. No idea. What is the answer?
Shawn,
I can guess it. I mean, I'm not going to guess it. 1635.
He says Cortez gave Coronado the cross in 1520. 1520.
Okay.
That shows how much I pay attention.
All right, Shawn, here's your question. Elsa drives the boat that they're in between 2 boats. What are the names of those 2 ships that they drive between?
The Pinta and the Santa Maria. I always did wonder why the prop was so high in the water.
Yeah.
Like that's supposed to be in the water, not really high up, but it made for a cool scene.
Eric, you got to guess this?
No, I do not. Yeah.
So there were two. One was Italian, of course, in Venice, and the other one was actually a ship from London. The Italian one was called Tiber, and the ship from London was the John W. Wackey, or Wacky. I don't know how you would pronounce it, but that's the name of the ships.
Hmm.
So there you go. All right, Eric. In the room where Henry Jones is being held in the castle, an inscription is on the door frame directly behind him and Indiana as they are talking. What does the inscription say?
Just above the door?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Shawn?
It's. I mean, is it German? Is it a German phrase?
It's in English.
How would it be in English? It says no smoking.
That's a good guess. No. So they're in the Brunwald castle, right?
Yeah.
And above the door it says Rudolph Brunwald, 1478.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, there's some debate. I think it's 1478. It could be 1278, but it's actually a picture you can take a look at on IMDb. It's picture number 151 of 508. But it's on there, and it looks to me like it's a very fancy 4, but I could see someone's case trying to say it's a 2. But anyway, yeah.
Picture 100 what?
151 of 508.
151. Okay.
Yeah. And you can kind of make it out. You have to zoom in, but yeah, that's the Brunwald Castle.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
So, Shawn, this is your question.
Yep.
On the side of the blimp, there is a number.
Yeah, natural.
What is the number? Yeah. What is the number on the side of the blimp?
Oh, I don't know. 1701. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek. We'll say 1701.
All right, Eric, do you have a guess?
I don't know what's on the side of the blimp, but I did write down what was on the side of the plane.
Well, I thought you might, because
anticipating
those
what you were
letters
going
were pretty obvious. So
what you were going to say, but I really don't know what even the plane numbers represent, because usually that would represent something, and they were DEKVY, but I have no idea what's on the blimp.
So this is also a picture you can find on IMDb. It's 174 of 508, and the answer is D, as in dog, 138.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, D138.
At least that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There's numbers on bikes and things of that sort too, but I couldn't find anything that referenced like Star Wars besides that.
All right. So here's the last question. Eric,
wait,
this
hold
is
on.
yours.
D138. What's that representing?
138?
Yeah.
THX 1138.
Okay. Yeah, just make sure I'm on the same page. And
but that's not really, well, that's THX 1138. But then again, that was the cell number in or the garbage shooter cell number in Star Wars as well. So.
Right. All right. Last question. In the tank between Marcus and Henry Jones, what is posted on the wall of the tank?
No smoking.
No pens.
Well, I'll give you a hint. It's not words.
Wow. I never noticed.
Shawn?
No, yeah, I've
okay. Well, there are 3 pinup girls.
Nice.
On the wall of the tank. Yeah.
I was
well, at least they're
but yeah.
Could be pinup girls, could just be pictures of, but they look like maybe they're scantily clothed. So I thought,
although that tank though wasn't theirs. So
right.
Who
Yeah, it was the locals. It was
the
Jordanians or whatever they were. So
So that's the game. Oh well, looking through pictures. This is not the game anymore, but looking through pictures, if you look, I think it was. I just happened to catch it as I was looking through here because I always look through the pictures when we are recording just to see if there are things that I missed or whatever. But if you look, I think it's like 58 or somewhere in there.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg is wearing a hat that you might recognize.
Oh yeah, it says North Carolina Navy Patrol.
Well, Highway Patrol.
Or Highway Patrol, excuse me. All I can see is the something Y. Highway Patrol. Yeah, he's wearing a North Carolina Highway Patrol hat.
Yeah.
This movie has a North Carolina connection. There it is.
There you go.
There's not always one, but that's cool. It was glad you found that, Andrew.
Yeah. All right, so that's the game.
This movie does have a RRR connection.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. The Elsa is the evil mistress from RRR.
Okay.
Yeah, she's very evil in that movie.
Yep.
And Alison Doody was only 21 when she was in this film. I think
I don't know
how old she was.
Do we want to have the
Maybe she
conversation about? I mean, it's too late in the episode, but like Indiana Jones and his dad shared a woman. I mean,
Oh yeah. But I think that was also one of the aspects of the relationship that they wanted to introduce. Not so much that they were sleeping with the same woman, but that whatever Indiana Jones has done, his dad has done better. And literally that was part of the gag and the joke, but that's what it was like. That's one thing that they wanted to incorporate, that senior did things first and was.
She would have been 23 doing the math.
23, okay. Maybe she was 21 in the Bond movie she was in. Or yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, and Harrison Ford was born in 66, so that makes him what, like quite a bit older than her.
66?
I think that's what I read. Maybe I read that
when
wrong.
she was born. I mean, they're the same age.
42. Excuse me, 42.
He
was born in 42.
Yeah, he's just older than my dad. Yeah, so he's 24 years older than her?
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's Hollywood in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
True. Well, it's not much different now.
Well, his actual wife is really young too. So
yes. Yeah.
True.
All right, that was fun. No one wins, and that's okay. Time for time for this.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we give the movie a score from 0 to 10. And I have good feeling that this is going to be probably one of our higher ranked movies because there's a lot of love to be said about this movie. Andrew, what you got?
Yep. IMDb has an 8.2 out of 10. And I just think it needs to go a little higher. Again, because of nostalgic purposes, because it's a great movie, because it's fun, it's funny, it's action packed, and yeah, there's one or two things that don't really hold up technology wise as far as the things we've mentioned, but I still think that it's a great film. So I'm gonna put this right at an 8.8.
Okay,
and that's because Back to the Future is a little bit better, so I'm going to use that number.
No, I gotcha. Gotcha. What you got, Eric?
I think I gave Raiders 10.
You did.
Did I give Temple 9?
You did.
So this one, since it's my third favorite of the series, but it's infinitely better than anything that's come after it. The only thing it loses marks for me, and I know you guys love the humor. I just think there's just way too much of it that's been incorporated into it. So the film loses a bit of its edge, or the series and the character loses just a little bit of its edge. It became a bit too silly for me, which then influenced especially the fourth movie, which just everything was based on something comedic or goofy or lighthearted or way too whimsical. But it's still a fantastic film. And but since I like Raiders and Temple better, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
No problem. This is my favorite of the three, of all of them that I've seen. It's one of my, I don't know if it's in my top 10 favorites of all time, but it would be probably in my top maybe 25 or so. I just adore this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I like the humor. I'm okay with it being less edgy. And so I gave Raiders 9.1. This is a 9.5 for me. I just love this movie so much. So, but giving it an 8.76 is it's pretty good. I don't even know if that puts it in the top. Where does that put it? Does it put it in the top 10 anywhere? Do you think so, Andrew? Think that's top 10 material?
I don't know. I don't. We've got quite a few that are around that score.
No, let's see. Puts it somewhere around top 15.
That's still pretty good, though.
Yeah, it's still good. Nothing wrong with that at all. Anyway, cool. Well, Erik, thank you so much for coming on. Please tell our listeners where they can find your show.
Sure. It's easy to find it. Cinematicsound.net. If you like film, television, video game music, orchestral music, then my podcast is for you. And there's exciting things that are happening. Again, I'm just waiting to announce something that's actually pretty important and will expand our reach significantly, but it's still not official. But it's going to keep me very, very, very busy in a time when I literally have zero time. But again, yeah, if you like soundtracks, like scores, like movies, cinematicsound.net.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out. Highly recommend. Highly, highly, highly recommend. If you like music and all that stuff, go check them out. Definitely do that. That's going to do it. Next week, we are finally going to do our episode with Will. We're doing Leon the Professional. We had to move that episode a couple times. So next week, we're doing Leon the Professional, which I've only ever seen twice because of the podcast. So I'm very excited to get a chance to finally talk about that. Mainly because the notes for that have been on my my script here for a very long time. So I'm ready to get rid of those.
And I've yet to see
Sam
it.
will be
I'm
back.
excited.
Sam will be back with us next week.
You haven't seen it, Andrew?
I have not.
Oh, wow. You're in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You're in
It's
for a treat.
I think a lot of people think it's Jean-Luc Besson's best film.
Yeah. Yes.
It's I like to say The Fifth Element, but I also have that kind of movie just has a weird place in my heart. That was one of the first movies I ever bought on VHS and then DVD, and then because it was on the wrong format, it was HD DVD. They bet the wrong horse on that one. So I just love that movie so much. But it is a really, really good movie. So can't wait to talk about that next week. In the meantime, go to our website, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com. There you can find links to all our social medias. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you do all that stuff. And buy a t-shirt. Be like Rosie, who joined us last week, and wear our t-shirt to Comic-Con today, because she did that today. She wore our shirt to Comic-Con, which is so cool. So thank you, Rosie, for that. And that's going to do it. So on behalf of Erik and Andrew, my name is Shawn, and I say thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye. And in recording.